wish I could hold my head up high. And it's been a while since I first saw you. And it's been a while since I can stand on my own 2 feet again. And it's been a while since I could call you. And everything I can remember is fucked up as it all may seem. The consequences that are rendered, I stretch myself beyond my means. It's been a while since I can say that I wasn't addicted, and it's been a while since I couldn't say I love myself as well. And it's been a while since I've gone and fucked things up just like I always do. And it's been a while, but all that shit seems to disappear when I'm with you. And everything I can remember is fucked up as it all may seem. The consequences that I've rendered.
In 1882, the famous English writer Oscar Wilde came 4,000 miles to Mississippi. It cost him a boat ticket and 2 weeks' time. In 1882, the famous New York minister Henry Ward Beecher came 1,000 miles to Mississippi. It cost him a railroad ticket and 3 days' time. And in 1882, this infamous man came only 400 miles to Mississippi. It almost cost him his life. Wanted in 7 states, dead or alive, a $10,000 reward on his head. But Jesse James risked his life, left his hideout in St. Joseph, Missouri, rode 400 dangerous miles to the south, leaving Missouri, passing through Arkansas, down to Mississippi City, Mississippi. What drew a writer, a preacher, and an outlaw to this remote place? They all came to see the Boston strong boy, John L. Sullivan, challenge for the heavyweight championship of the world. This is the man Sullivan has to beat, bare-knuckle champion Irish Paddy Ryan. Wax on his mustache, but iron in his fists. On February 8, 1882, Irish Paddy stalked into the ring to, as he put it, dispense with this boy Sullivan. For 8 rounds, Sullivan and Ryan clubbed away at each other. Then suddenly in the 9th round, the upstart challenger smashed his fist to Ryan's jaw, and John L. Sullivan became the new bare-knuckle champion of the world. 2 months after the fight, Robert Ford shot Jesse James in the back of the head while Jesse was hanging a picture in his home in St. Joseph, Missouri. 1882. America was in the second half of a 200-year boom that would take it from a weakling colony to world power. Football had just been invented, and baseball pitchers were still throwing underhand. Boxing was illegal in most of the country, but Americans loved it. It was the spectator sport, Americana in the raw. Calling the 1882 brand of boxing a sport is really a kindness. Barely organized mayhem would be closer. Bouts were held in bar rooms, on barges, and deep in the backwoods. Wrestling and gouging were commonplace with no gloves on the hands. The brawls also had no time limits. They usually ended with the stronger man having literally disabled his opponent. And in 1882, John Lawrence Sullivan had proved that he could probably, as he put it, lick any son of a bitch in the world. At 5 foot 10 inches, he was not quite a giant. But in his first 7 years as champion, Sullivan overwhelmed all of his 23 opponents in 6 rounds or less. He drank under the table all those men he didn't fight. Here is John L. without his handlebar mustache, posed in front of his favorite hangout, a saloon. But in 1888, a threat appeared in Sullivan's rosy future. Jake Kilrain, who figured he could easily beat the rum-soaked champion. The Sullivan-Kilrain fight is the most famous bare-knuckle contest ever held. These are the first photographs ever taken of a fight. These are the only photographs of a bare-knuckle contest. These are the only visual records of John L. Sullivan in action. 23rd round, middle of the Mississippi woods. Temperature 100 degrees. The roughneck crowd didn't have to pay. All the money to be made on the fight was in the $10,000 side bet between Sullivan and Kilrain. The man with the shaved head is the world wrestling champion and Sullivan's trainer, Wild William Muldoon. Notice John L.'s gloveless right hand. By the way, they are not fighting on canvas, but on good old American dirt. 75th round. 2 hours and 16 minutes after it began, the savage fighting ends under the broiling Mississippi sun. Jake Kilrain lies on the ground, too battered to rise. The great Sullivan-Kilrain fight is over. It will be the last championship fight fought with bare knuckles. Soon after the fight, the victorious Sullivan had a surprise in store for him. It took 16 brave men in blue to arrest the feared champion for having engaged in an illegal prize fight. In 1890, at the age of 32, the champion took his fistic talents to a new arena, the melodrama stage. John L. and his handlebar mustache starred in a standing room only success called Honest Hearts and Willing Hands. Sullivan, on the left, always got to flatten the dastardly villain in the last act. But as John L. moonlighted on the stage, a handsome pompadoured figure catapulted into the boxing limelight, James John Corbett, the father of modern boxing. Corbett arrived on the fight scene at an opportune time. A new set of rules, sponsored by the English nobleman, the Marquis of Queensberry, had been gradually gaining favor. The bare-knuckle era was about to end. When James J. Corbett and John L. Sullivan donned gloves on September 7, 1892, it was the start of the modern era of boxing. This crude drawing is the only record of the scene, the Olympic Sporting Club in New Orleans. No photos exist, but evidently it wasn't much of a contest. Sullivan didn't have wrestler Muldoon to get him in shape, and he looked as if he had trained for a pie-eating contest rather than a championship fight. For 20 rounds, the will-o'-the-wisp Corbett danced around the champion, waiting for the opportunity to strike. In the 21st round, with Sullivan reduced to a puffing, exhausted shell, the opening came. John L. Sullivan toppled to the floor. And James John Corbett, the man who is credited with bringing science to the manly art of fisticuffs, stood victorious over America's idol, the invincible John L. Sullivan. The newspapers trumpeted the fall of Sullivan to an unbelieving country.